even though I've known this for a while, I know that people nowadays, they typically don't like to read. So I like to write, and unfortunately, I have a problem if no one's gonna read what I have to write. If I'm trying to get it out there and I'm trying to, show it to other people. And so what I want to do is I want to um, read something that I wrote about why I think Ron Paul should be the president and why I think he's got the best chance out of any of the Republicans to win the Republican nominee. This was written before Huckabee came in the picture, so a little bit might be outdated, but I want to read it. I'll try to make it as interesting as I can, and then at the end I want to explain some reasons on why you shouldn't vote for Mike Huckabee. Just gotta keep an open mind, but I'm gonna throw in some clips here and there just so people can take a look at it, and it'll make things more interesting. Hopefully people will watch, and it'll be a lot quicker than reading it. In this blog entry, I will explain different reasons why Ron Paul is the most qualified to be president. It'll go over subjects that range from passion to knowledge, from experience to consistency. Hopefully, after this is said, it'll bring Ron Paul one person closer to saving this country. Jefferson once said, "Every generation needs a revolution." Well, Ron Paul is our revolution. First and foremost, Ron Paul is incredibly smart. He's a doctor, he writes books, and he reads books. In fact, at one of the Republican debates, Rudy Giuliani first tried to make Ron Paul look bad by taking Ron Paul's words out of context and then challenged him on why 9/11 occurred. We'll take a quick look at the clip.
Have you ever read about the reasons they attacked us? They attack us because we've been over there. We've been bombing Iraq for 10 years. We've been in the Middle East. I think Reagan was right. We don't understand the irrationality of Middle Eastern politics. So right now we're building an embassy in Iraq that's bigger than the Vatican. We're building 14 permanent bases. What would we say here if China was doing this in our country or in the Gulf of Mexico? We would be objecting. We need to look at what we do from the perspective of what would happen if somebody else did it to us.
Are you suggesting we invited the 9/11 attack, sir?
I'm suggesting that we listen to the people who attacked us and the reason they did it. And they are delighted that we're over there because Osama bin Laden has said, "I am glad you're over on our sand because we can target you so much easier." They've already now, since that time, have killed 3,400 of our men, and I don't think it was necessary.
Wendell, may I make a comment on that? That's really an extraordinary statement. It's an extraordinary statement as someone who lived through the attack of September 11, that we invited the attack because we were attacking Iraq. I don't think I've ever heard that before, and I've heard some pretty absurd explanations for September 11. I would ask the congressman to withdraw that comment and tell us that he didn't really mean that.
Congressman?
So, Giuliani asked him to take it back and apologize. What did Ron Paul do? Neither. He didn't apologize or take it back like any other presidential candidate would do in order to save them from looking bad. Instead, Ron Paul had a press release for a summer reading list for Rudy Giuliani that it explored books that support the blowback theory. He also had a former CIA agent to back him up. Apparently, Giuliani, the former mayor of the New York City during 9/11, has never read the 9/11 Commission, which isn't surprising considering he spent more time going to see the New York Yankees play ball than he did at Ground Zero. What Ron Paul essentially is saying that if we listen to our enemies, then we will know why they attack us. Is that such an irrational thought? When Dr. Paul referred to blowback, what he was referring to was a phrase that the CIA first used in 1953 when they overthrew the Shah in Iran. Blowback is the unintended consequences for the U.S. government meddling with other countries' affairs. Analyzing what Ron Paul said, it's hard to disagree with him. We've been bombing the Middle East forever. Is it such an irrational thought that they might want to try to get back at us? But that's not what Americans want to hear. We automatically associate ourselves with our government, and we shouldn't do that. Here's a little quote to keep in mind.
I don't like to use the word U.S. interest. That's why I wish some other critics, friends of ours, would stop saying, we go into this country, we go into that country, we do this and we do that. And I'm going, shh, shh, we don't do anything. They do it to us. We are part of the victims. We're not part of the victimizers.
Nothing could be closer to the truth. 3,000 people died on 9/11, not because we, the people, invited it, but because the American government foreign policy incited it. Yet we continue to expand our federal government. Which leads me to my next point. One thing the other Republican candidates should brush up on is the Constitution, and they should definitely try reading that again in all the Supreme Court cases. A good example of them not doing so well would be in this next clip when Romney makes such a stupid remark, and I bet he regrets it. Check it out.
The question, if you were President of the United States, would you need to go to Congress to get authorization to take military action against Iran's nuclear facilities?
You sit down with your attorneys and tell you what you have to do.
Down the line, gentlemen, it's so important. Congressman Paul, do you believe the President needs authorization of Congress to attack strategic nuclear facilities?
Absolutely. This idea of going and talking to attorneys totally baffles me. Why don't we just open up the Constitution and read it? You're not allowed to go to war without a declaration of war.
When the Founding Fathers wrote a Commander-in-Chief is the President, they meant that the President was Commander-in-Chief of the Army when war was already declared. When the Constitution came up in government class, obviously some people missed it. When the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution and planned out the government, they had this really rational thought that seems to be lost now. It's that no one is above the law, and that's why even the President can be punished, sued, or impeached. When the Founding Fathers declared that the Constitution itself was the supreme law of the land, this means no law is above that law. That means no person is above the law. The Constitution is not just the Bill of Rights, but it is what laid out the structure of our government, what our government was supposed to be like, which is kind of out of control now. The Founding Fathers didn't really want a controlling government. Why do you think they just fought the revolution? They wanted restricted government. They wanted the government to be restricted from the things that they did not write or imply in the Constitution. So what happens when the federal government exceeds those limitations? We have a government that is trying to say that it is above the supreme law of the land. Not one single presidential candidate acknowledges that except Ron Paul. Instead, all the other candidates want to lay claim over what we've always known to be a federal matter. Things like abortion or gay marriage. These things are not federal issues. The federal government is not allowed to hijack these issues from the states. Those rights fall under the 10th Amendment, which says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Now, I know a lot of people don't read the Constitution, but I can assure you that Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin weren't arguing if fetuses feel pain or if Elton John could get married. Ron Paul has brought the attention back to the rights of the states. He believes that if it is not implied or explicitly written in the Constitution, the federal government has no right to put their hands in it. What most people and politicians have forgotten is that we are the United States of America. Think about that, because sometimes we say things we don't understand. United States. United States of America. We aren't just America. If we were just America, there would be only one government, and that's the federal government, and there wouldn't be any borders to different states. What does Dr. Paul's view do for you? It gives you more power. It gives you more of a say. It lets you write to your governor or your local representatives to push through your own agenda or what you believe in. If you believe that abortion or gay marriage is right or wrong, you can write to your district commissioner, you can write to your local representatives, but you don't have to write to your senators or your congressmen in the United States House of Representatives or in the U.S. Senate.